I wasn't even thinking about it. Despair. Like I was scared as hell. And it was everything I expected. And it was so tough. I knew they were gonna make it difficult, but I don't think I saw more than 3 singles on a real drop back the whole game, and I just knew that if I did, I had to make that moment count. So I knew I had it in me. So we got to make it happen, and unfortunately, he came up a little bit short.
That Week 18 Sunday in Cleveland was supposed to be a routine ending to a rough season, but instead it flipped the whole narrative. Yes, the Browns pulled off a late comeback against Cincinnati. Yes, Myles Garrett finally locked in the single-season sack record that had been just out of reach. Those moments mattered, but they were not what had people talking long after the stadium cleared out. The real shift came once the cameras stayed rolling. Myles Garrett stepped to the mic and spoke on Shedeur Sanders, and the tone was different. This was not hype talk or surface-level praise. It sounded like a leader making something official without saying it straight up. A quiet endorsement, a nod that said the future was already in motion. For a fan base that has watched promises fall apart for years, that moment hit deep. Garrett has been through the chaos, coaching changes, roster flips, lost seasons. When someone like that speaks with confidence about what is coming next, people listen, and the timing made it heavier. For weeks, Garrett had been grinding under a spotlight that would not let up.
I just don't think the trajectory of the team for having success in the near future, I don't think we're aligned in that currently. That's kind of just led to my opinion and my feelings at this moment. I feel like at this point in my career, I want to have more postseason success.
Yes.
I want to the opportunity at least to go out there and to compete, contend, and I don't think that's possible. Where we are now, just talking to management.
Sitting at 22.5 sacks, every offense knew what he was chasing. Game plans were built around erasing him. Linemen leaned on him all game. Tight ends chipped him. Quarterbacks dumped the ball early just to avoid his side. By the time Cleveland lined up against Cincinnati, the tension was thick. This was not just about a record anymore. It was about whether effort still mattered on a team with nothing to gain in the standings. For most of the game, it felt like history was slipping again. Joe Burrow stayed protected with fast throws and extra blockers. Garrett kept fighting through traffic, snap after snap, getting close but not close enough. You could see the frustration in his body language, but he never checked out. That part mattered just as much as anything that ended up on the stat sheet.
I think I said it earlier, but I had a dream that I didn't get it. So I was like we gotta deny fate, whatever it is, we gotta make it happen. And I just went into it and still had the utmost confidence in myself and my preparation. And in my guys, man, I couldn't do it without them. They were supporting me, trying to find ways to free me up, get the chips off me, get the doubles off, and eventually, we just made it happen as we have all year.
Great players separate themselves when the pressure is at its highest, and late in the fourth quarter, Cincinnati blinked. With under 5 minutes left, they rolled the dice and left Myles Garrett in a rare one-on-one. That was all he needed. He fired off the edge with pure speed, blew past the blocker, and dropped Joe Burrow to the turf for sack number 23. In that instant, history was locked in. The record was done. The reaction said everything. Teammates poured onto the field, offense and defense mixed together. Coaches sprinted in, all of it raw and real. This was not rehearsed celebration. This was relief, pride, and respect, all crashing together at once. What makes this moment even crazier is the context. No one in league history had ever hit 23 sacks while playing on a team with the worst offense in football. That matters because it meant fewer pass attempts, fewer chances, and fewer obvious sack situations. Teams were usually ahead, running the clock, not dropping back. Garrett still got it done while fighting uphill all season.
It was special. I've given everything to them. They give my very best every day, and I'm so grateful and so glad to have them as teammates. It's like I said, it's a privilege to be with these guys, to go to work with these guys, to bleed, to sweat, and to cry with these guys. And it's happening a lot right now. Man, I couldn't imagine doing it with a better group of men. Going in, always, coming in with a great attitude, working hard, and coming with a smile on their faces. And they never too high, never too low. And I'm so proud of this group.
That reality makes the record hit harder. He did more with less, and everyone in the building knew it. When Garrett spoke after the game, he kept it real. He said, "Man, it was everything I expected. It was so tough. I knew they were going to make it difficult, but I don't think I saw more than 3 singles on a real drive the whole game, and I just knew that if I did, I have to make that moment count, and the feeling couldn't be better. That line tells the whole story. 3 real one-on-one chances, maybe. That is it. The Bengals avoided him all afternoon, threw help his way, slid protection nonstop, but when they finally slipped, when they finally tested him straight up, Garrett finished the job. That is how legends move.
Honestly, anytime I thought about thinking, I was tired or the fatigue setting in, I thought about that dream. I picked this up. It was time to go.
Great players take advantage when chances finally open up, but this is where the story veers into territory nobody saw coming. The sack record will live forever in the stat books, but what happened next is what may shape the Browns for years. With Cleveland still trailing and the game hanging by a thread, it was on Shedeur Sanders to respond. There were no safety nets, no excuses, just a rookie quarterback stepping into the loudest moment possible, the season finale, the pressure of a franchise legend's historic day, everything riding on one final drive. Sanders had been carrying weight all week, and now he had to carry the team. He did not blink. He took control of the offense and moved them down the field with calm precision. One smart throw after another. 3rd downs converted, pressure ignored, the pocket collapsed, and he stayed steady. Before long, Cleveland was in range, and Dustin Hopkins lined up with the game resting on his right leg. Hopkins drilled it as time expired. Browns win 20-18. Garrett gets the record in a victory, and Sanders once again shows he has the mindset needed to lead at this level. The calm, the toughness, the ability to deliver when everything is on the line. But what truly set the football world buzzing was not the kick itself. It was what Myles Garrett said after watching that drive unfold. When asked about seeing Shedeur Sanders guide the team into position, Garrett did not hesitate.
Shedeur Sanders going downfield and making sure that you got, and Andre too, Shedeur and Andre, making sure that you got one of the things that you wanted with this sack, which was a victory. How great was that for them to do that?
I mean, once we got in field goal range, I knew he was going to seal it. This is the moment that he's been waiting for. Do it against a team that, unfortunately he came up a little bit short with at the beginning of the year. And I know he's been waiting at the second crack at this, and God willing, he went out there and put it right down the middle. So I was excited. I love winning, so it doesn't matter whether it's beginning of the season, end of the season, last game of the season. No, I'm just proud of him and glad to have a win.
He said, once we got in field goal range, I knew he was going to seal it. This is the moment that he's been waiting for, God willing. He went out there and put it right down the middle. I was excited. I love winning. Read that carefully. I knew he was going to seal it. That is not hope. That is not optimism. That is trust. That is a defensive superstar, a future Hall of Famer, a man who just broke one of the most respected records in football, openly saying his rookie quarterback was built for that moment. That kind of belief does not come lightly, and it does not get handed out without reason. Then Myles Garrett added one more line that quietly sealed the moment. He made it clear that timing did not matter. Early season, late season, final game. All that mattered was the result and the growth he saw. He said he was proud of him and grateful for the win. That word carries weight. Proud. Coming from Garrett, it means more than a routine compliment. This is the face of the franchise, the player who carried Cleveland through losing years, chaos, and constant reset after reset. When someone like that says he is proud of Shedeur Sanders, it lands differently. This was not teammate talk. This was a locker room leader signaling trust, a cornerstone recognizing another cornerstone. It sounded like a torch being passed without ceremony. For Browns fans who have been burned before, this was the affirmation they have been waiting for. But to truly understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to look at what Sanders had been dealing with before kickoff. What he shared after the game pulled the curtain back on a side of this season few people saw. His post-game comments were not polished or scripted. They were open and personal. When asked about his emotions on that final drive, Sanders said, "I'll say it's a lot. I'll say all week. I would say I've been dealing with a lot spiritually, like different battles that I had to overcome, I just had to overcome. So that's why my body language, everything was off." That explains more than any stat line ever could. He was not just fighting defenders, he was fighting internal pressure, mental strain, and emotional weight that never shows up on film. The kind of battles that sit heavy long before Sunday arrives. Now stack that on top of everything else. A rookie quarterback behind one of the league's weakest offensive lines, constant pressure in his face, little margin for error. Add injuries that stripped him of chemistry, including losing Cedric Tillman, his most trusted target. Every week demanded resilience. And still, when the moment came, Sanders stood in the storm and delivered. That is why Garrett's words mattered so much. He was not praising a single drive. He was recognizing strength that most people never see. All season long, Shedeur Sanders has been swimming against noise that never shuts off. Constant criticism, endless doubt, daily debates about whether he belongs. Layer that on top of internal struggles that were already weighing on his mind and body, and it paints a picture far heavier than football. Confidence takes hits, energy drops, even body language changes. But this is where the story shifts into something deeper. This is where you see what real team culture actually looks like. Sanders explained that everything changed once halftime arrived, and what happened in that locker room mattered more than any adjustment on the whiteboard.
Dealing with a lot spiritually, like different battles, that I had to overcome, I just had to overcome. So that's why my body language, everything was off. Like that's what it was. And we got in at halftime, we got in the locker room, and like close teammates, close friends was like, nah, bro, get back to being you. So it was that words of encouragement, it was that shoulder to lean on that you need in them crucial moments. So then, as you
He said, then we got into halftime, we got in the locker room, and close teammates, close friends. Those words say enough on their own. The people who know you best, the ones who see through the noise. Teammates pulled him aside, not to criticize, not to pile on. They spoke directly to him. They reminded him who he is. They told him to lock back in and trust himself again. That is real brotherhood. That is what strong teams do when things start slipping. They do not let their quarterback sink under pressure. They step in. They give encouragement. They offer support instead of blame. They help restore belief when it starts to fade. Sanders broke down what followed once the second half began. He said, so then, as you see right back after halftime, then we start getting our rhythm. We start being us. So I think today, overall mentally we won different battles. I think we won mentally. That line explains everything. This game was not decided by raw talent alone. It was decided by mindset, by resilience, by a group choosing to fight together instead of letting doubt take over. Winning the mental battle changed the entire flow, and the scoreboard followed. This game was never just about execution. It was about mindset, about staying grounded when chaos tries to creep in. Cleveland did not win because everything went perfectly. They won because they stayed mentally locked in when it mattered most. Shedeur Sanders showed that growth clearly in the way he talked about the final drive. Instead of pretending past failures never happened, he leaned into them. Earlier in the season, he had been in similar spots late in games. The opportunity was there, but the finish was not. Those moments stuck with him, but they did not break him. What stood out was how he framed it. He saw those missed chances as preparation, not scars. When the Browns got the ball late this time, there was no panic, no rush, just control. Sanders trusted the process, trusted his teammates, and trusted that the work he put in after those earlier failures would show up when it counted. He also made it clear that the final drive was not about chasing redemption or proving critics wrong. It was about alignment, about everyone pulling in the same direction. The offense, the sideline, the locker room. Nobody was chasing personal moments. They were chasing the same outcome. Sanders viewed the drive as a test of character more than skill. One rough half was not going to define who he was. One slow start was not going to erase weeks of growth. Each game had been stacking lessons, building confidence piece by piece. This moment was simply the next step. That perspective matters. Quarterbacks who last in this league do not run from pressure. They understand it. They study it. They use it as a measuring stick. Sanders approached that final possession with clarity instead of desperation, and that calm spread through the huddle. What made the moment even stronger was the trust involved. Trust in Dustin Hopkins to finish the job. Trust in protection. Trust in timing. Sanders did not force anything. He let the game come to him and made the right decisions at the right time. That is not luck. That is growth in real time. The Browns did not just win a game that night. They showed mental maturity, and their rookie quarterback showed he is learning how to lead when the margin for error disappears. The idea that a bad half does not define character became real in this moment. Shedeur Sanders lived it. A rookie quarterback who struggled early chose not to let adversity label him. What mattered was how he responded. The first half was messy. His energy was off. His body language showed the weight he was carrying. There were internal battles happening that had nothing to do with coverages or blitzes, but instead of folding, he paused. He listened. He reset. Halftime became a turning point, not an escape. Teammates stepped in, helped him refocus, and reminded him of what he already knew. When he came back out, it was not the same quarterback. The second half told a different story. Calmer decisions, sharper timing, confidence returning snap by snap. When the Browns needed plays late, Sanders was no longer reacting. He was anticipating. When he was asked what he saw on the key throws during the final drive, the answer showed what happens when preparation takes over. He said, "I think it was just clicking, you know?" That feeling came from familiarity, from comfort in the system, from repetition built over time. He explained that getting back to their core concepts allowed him to move naturally through his reads. Those progressions were not rushed. They were second nature. He added, "I think we got back a lot to what we've been doing, honestly, and I think being able to go through the keys and reads those are the stuff that I know like the back of my hand." That confidence does not appear by accident. It comes from hours of reps, film study, and trust in fundamentals. When defenses changed looks, it did not throw him off. The rhythm stayed intact. He continued, "So that's where reps, and that's where all that different type of stuff come into play, to where you're able to execute each and every play. No matter what defense they're able to put out there, it was just clicking." That is preparation showing up when the margin for error disappears. Sanders did not improvise under pressure. He relied on what he had already built, but there was another layer to what he shared that matters just as much. When the conversation turned back to the internal struggles he mentioned earlier, Sanders opened up even more. He made it clear that the battles were not external, they were mental. He said, I'm able to recognize it, but it's all in the mental. That honesty explains the season better than any stat ever could. Sanders went even deeper when he spoke about what he had been facing internally throughout the season. He acknowledged that pressure does not always show up the same way. Sometimes it comes through doubt, sometimes through voices around you, sometimes through exhaustion from carrying expectations week after week. He said, I think the devil, of course, is going to attack you different ways, people around you and everything. And honestly, this whole year has been a long year. It's been ups, downs, it's been different feelings. So you got to be able at some point in time to talk to people. Sometimes you got to lean on people. Also, the devil is going to attack you different ways. That statement was not about blame. It was about awareness. Sanders was recognizing that mental and spiritual pressure can come from all directions. Internal doubt, outside criticism, the weight of responsibility, all of it stacking up over time and wearing on you if you let it. What stood out most was what he said next because it showed growth and perspective far beyond his age. He said, so that's what my guys in there was able to come to life. That's whenever they talk to me. No, bro, do you? This ain't you right now. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff that gets you going. That's the type of positivity and stuff that you need around that. You need people to let you know who you are. That is powerful because pressure can blur your identity. When things are going wrong, it is easy to forget what makes you you. Confidence slips, focus fades, doubt gets louder. Sanders continued, you feel me? So continue being that guy. You need people to let you know who you are. That is the heart of real support. Not empty motivation, not blind praise, honest voices that pull you back to center when you drift. That is what his teammates did at halftime. They did not let him spiral, they grounded him. That support changed everything. It allowed Sanders to reset, to trust himself again, and to step back into the moment with clarity. That is why he delivered when it mattered, and what he learned through all of this might be the most important takeaway of his entire rookie season. When Sanders was asked what he learned from this season and why finishing this way mattered, his answer revealed a level of reflection you rarely hear, especially from someone so early in their career. He did not talk about stats or wins. He talked about awareness. He said, I learned what I like. I learned what I don't like. I learned what I'm seeing. I know what I see. Well, I know what I don't see well, and I learned a lot mentally, and I learned a lot emotionally, physically, everything. That response says more than any highlight reel ever could. This rookie season was not just about football mechanics. It was about learning himself, understanding his limits, recognizing his strengths, figuring out how his mind and body react when pressure rises. He went deeper into that mental side, saying, I think mentally it was how to deal with when things are going your way and when things aren't going your way, how to deal with feelings, That line hits because it is honest. Being a quarterback at this level is emotional. One week you are praised, the next week you are questioned. Sanders learned that handling those swings matters just as much as reading coverages or throwing with anticipation. This season forced him to confront the emotional weight of leading a franchise, the expectations, the criticism, the constant evaluation. None of that disappears once the ball is snapped. You carry it with you. Sanders then shared something that should resonate with anyone trying to survive in a high-pressure environment. He said, so that's what I feel like this year is about. I think it was one of those years that how you gonna deal with the feelings. You could be not playing and feel some type of way, and you could be playing and feel the same way as if you didn't. That's how you were when you weren't playing. So it's kind of like you gotta create your own reality and you gotta have that nucleus of people around to be able, and it's not just your family, it got to be outside. Create your own reality. That mindset is what separates leaders from talent alone. Franchise quarterbacks do not wait for circumstances to validate them. They build belief internally. They surround themselves with people who keep them grounded and honest. Sanders understood something crucial. You cannot carry this alone. Growth requires support. And this season taught him exactly that. The scene inside the locker room after the game said more than any stat line ever could. The noise, the smiles, the shared energy. It reflected a group that had been through pressure together and came out the other side connected. When Sanders was asked what that celebration meant to him, his answer cut straight to the heart of team culture. He said, "I think that we got each other's back." That one sentence explains everything. He did not make it about himself or the final drive. He pointed to the defense. He pointed to the offense. He made it clear that neither side survives without the other. He explained that without the defense holding the line, the offense never gets a chance late. And without the offense responding under pressure, the defense's work would not matter. Both units had to lean on each other. Both had to trust that the other side would handle their responsibility when the moment came. That mutual dependence is where trust is built, not through speeches, through shared stress, through moments where everyone knows there is no backup plan. You either execute together or fail together. Sanders understands something many players take years to grasp. Football does not reward individual moments unless they connect to the bigger picture. Myles Garrett breaking the sack record means nothing without a win. A game-winning drive means nothing if the defense collapses before it. Every piece matters. What unfolded on Sunday was not just a single achievement or a late comeback. It was two timelines meeting at once. One belonging to a veteran who has carried the franchise through hard seasons. The other belonging to a rookie learning how to carry it forward. An established cornerstone and an emerging one shared defining moments in the same game. And after it was over, the respect between them was obvious. Garrett did not talk like a distant star. He spoke like someone who trusted what he saw. He said he knew his quarterback would close it. That belief did not come from hope. It came from watching preparation, growth, and response under pressure. That is how real foundations are formed, through trust earned when the margin for error disappears. I'm proud of him. Those 4 words carried more weight than anything else said that day. Coming from Myles Garrett, they were not casual. They were earned. Shedeur Sanders took hits all season, both on the field and mentally. He dealt with constant scrutiny, nonstop doubt, and pressure that never eased up. Yet when the moment demanded clarity and courage, he answered. That is why this felt different. Not like a lucky finish, not like a temporary spark. This looked like confirmation. When the game tightened, when everything rested on one drive, when the face of the franchise had already done his part, Sanders delivered, and Garrett saw it clearly. This was not about hype or projection. It was about response. Sanders did not shrink under the moment. He embraced it. He showed command. He showed calm. He showed growth. And when a veteran leader publicly acknowledges that, it sends a message far beyond the locker room. This is what Browns fans have been waiting for. Not promises, not potential. Proof. A quarterback who can handle pressure, take ownership, and lean on his teammates without losing himself. A leader who understands that vulnerability and strength can exist at the same time. What stood out most was the honesty. Sanders did not hide the battles he faced. He spoke openly about the internal weight he carried and how his teammates helped pull him back into focus. That kind of openness builds trust. It creates connection. It turns individuals into a unit. Despite a tough record, there is something forming here. 2 franchise pillars, one established and one emerging, aligning at the right moment. Mutual respect, shared belief, accountability on both sides of the ball. So now the conversation shifts, not about what might happen someday, but about what is already taking shape. What did you think of Myles Garrett publicly backing his quarterback like that? Do you see this moment as a turning point for Cleveland? And does Sanders' openness change how you view his leadership moving forward? This is how chapters close and new ones quietly open. Not with noise, not with promises, but with trust earned in real moments. A veteran who has seen everything looks at a rookie who survived his first storm and says he believes in him. That is not marketing. That is not optimism. That is recognition. Myles Garrett did not just break a record. He revealed something deeper about this team. He showed that leadership is not about spotlight. It is about knowing when to stand beside someone and let them step forward. And Shedeur Sanders did exactly that when the game demanded it. The Browns did not suddenly fix everything in one night. The record still tells a hard story. But inside that locker room, something shifted. 2 franchise cornerstones aligned. One built on dominance, the other built on resilience. That combination matters. Sanders showed he can absorb pressure, learn from failure, lean on others, and still deliver when the margin disappears. Garrett showed he is willing to trust the future and say it out loud. That kind of exchange does not happen by accident. Moments like this are why fans keep believing even when seasons fall apart, because every so often, you see the outline of what could be coming next. Not hype, direction. If you want deeper breakdowns like this, If you want the stories behind the moments, the mindset shifts, and the details that never make the highlight reels, that is exactly what we do at Huddle Files. This is where football gets explained beyond the box score. The story of this season is written. The story of what comes next is just starting. And you already know, we'll have every second of it broken down, every twist, every leak, every hidden play behind the headlines. So like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share it out. Stay locked in with Huddle Files, where the real NFL stories live.